The Boston Red Sox have now lost 4 straight games, and a big reason for that is because they desperately need Alex Bregman back in the lineup.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby Maljanian, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling podcast as well. And I'm here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, Monday through Friday, straight to your favorite podcast feed. And the best part, it's free. So make sure you tune in because Locked On is your team every single day. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Well, it's Wednesday, and normally I would say happy Wednesday, but it's not really a happy Wednesday if you are a Red Sox fan, because the Red Sox lost their 4th straight game last night against the Angels by a score of 3-2 in extra innings. And what's really infuriating is that they just cannot beat this Angels team. They lost a series against the Angels at home really recently, and now they just lost this series after a series loss in San Francisco. So again, they have now lost 4 straight, and I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt by saying that part of that is because they've had this long West Coast trip and they're just exhausted because of the time change and they just need to get back home. So I'm trying to hold out hope that that's part of it. But this team has just had this consistent mode all season of falling back to the 500 mark. They'll start to get hot and they'll play good baseball and then they'll drop back again. And that's just who they are. So that's a topic of discussion later on in today's show is, are the Red Sox sellers, as well as the big night that Marcelo Mayer had. But you think about the Red Sox and the way that they lost last night. And it was the 81st game of the season, so marked the exact halfway point for the Red Sox. And the way that they lost last night was really just a big storybook ending of this Red Sox first half, because it just really summarized everything that has gone wrong for this Red Sox team this year. Another tight 1-run loss. The Red Sox have lost so many 1-run games in this first half of the season. And so you can only defend them so much. And you can only say part of it is because of the fatigue of the West Coast trip when they've just continuously done this outside of even being on the West Coast. So the Red Sox lost a 1-run game last night. And Alex Bregman is still on the injured list, and he is desperately needed back in this Red Sox lineup. Why? Because he can make things happen offensively, and he would get that big hit when the Red Sox need it. So this lineup right now is having a lot of trouble with moving runners over and driving in runs with runners in scoring position. We saw it multiple times in the Red Sox loss last night in extra innings. Even Marcelo Mayer was able to come up to the plate in the top of the 10th inning and drive in the go-ahead run when the game was tied at 1 to put the Red Sox up 2-1. But they had more opportunities to capitalize in that inning, and they could not do it. David Hamilton came up to bat and he grounded into a double play, and he was trying to bunt earlier on in the at-bat, but it kept going foul, so he wasn't able to bunt successfully, so he ended up swinging, and it was a double play. But if he had been able to bunt successfully to get Mayer over to second, with his speed, there was a chance he also could have been safe at first. So that was a frustrating way to end a rally. And it's just so frustrating when you have a guy like Trevor Story who swings at the first pitch and pops up to the second baseman when there is base traffic. And you just get really bad at bats from these guys. But if they had Alex Bregman, he could have helped them to capitalize in situations where they had runners in scoring position. As a team last night, the Red Sox had just 5 hits in the game, which was really upsetting because they got an absolute gem from Garrett Crochet, who threw 7 shutout innings, giving up just 3 hits with 10 strikeouts and 3 walks. He threw 103 pitches with 67 strikes, but normally for a starter, they should get the win in a game like that. And then in the bottom of the 8th, the Angels tied it on a solo home run off of Greg Weisser, and then they ended up walking it off in the 10th inning on a 2-run homer. So the other thing about this that was crazy was both Angels home runs were hit by Kristian Moore, who meant business in this game. So he single-handedly provided the offense for the Angels, but the Red Sox just didn't have a lot of offense in general. They left 7 runners on base and went just 1 for 8 with runners in scoring position. Why would Alex Bregman have been so integral to that? So before he got injured, he was batting .259 with runners in scoring position with a .362 on base percentage and .448 slugging to go along with an .811 OPS, which is a lot better than most of the other hitters on this team. With men on base in general, he was batting .280 with a .381 on base percentage, .450 slugging, and .831 OPS. So the importance of Alex Bregman is really important here when it comes to thinking about this offense and its lack of ability to drive guys in, because Alex Bregman in the lineup will give you a better chance to drive in those runners than a lot of what you have out there right now. And granted, obviously, the lineup isn't ideal. We knew we'd be missing a piece significantly when Rafael Devers was shipped to San Francisco. So we know there's a big hole in the lineup right now, but I think the Red Sox are banking on the fact that Alex Bregman is coming back, hopefully in the next month, and Masataka Yoshida is on his way back, and the Red Sox are hoping that those two will help provide that offensive spark that the Red Sox need, because it's just been too many games in which the Red Sox haven't been able to score a lot of runs. And when you have your ace on the mound, you can't be wasting that gem of a start that he has. And it's really frustrating to experience that and experience him pitching as well as he is. And I found myself multiple times saying, wow, I wish we had Alex Bregman. And the biggest thing with that too is for him, he's able to cash in a lot of big moments for this Red Sox team. And because of that, and because of the fact that he feels like he has had a good enough experience in Boston, he has said that he is open to talking about an extension with the Boston Red Sox, and he is willing to have those conversations before he hits free agency. He signed a 3-year, $120 million contract with the team during the offseason, and the deal does include opt-outs after each season. So he could enter free agency after this season if he wants to, but he's open to having those conversations now about reworking that. A reworked contract would likely include a longer term and an adjustment to the average annual value. The exact length and compensation remain to be seen, but he said he was willing to have those conversations now. And I think with the way the Red Sox offense is performing now, it only makes that integral that they work something out with Bregman. He's been out since May 24th, but in 51 games before getting hurt, he hit .299 with 11 home runs and 35 RBIs. While he's been unavailable, he has made himself useful to the team in any way possible, especially by being a mentor to the younger players on this team. And so that's why him coming back is so important, because even his behavior at the plate and the maturity in his at-bats could serve really well for guys like Roman Anthony and Marcelo Mayer, who are really trying to learn from a guy like him when it comes to being better hitters at the major league level. If they are able to model how he approaches his at-bats, that could be really big for those guys. So this offense really needs Bregman. It's pretty obvious, not only because of the fact that he's just a veteran leader with experience that the younger players could watch and learn from, but also just the fact that his numbers were the most effective on the team when the Red Sox had runners on base. So last night's game is a perfect example of when the Red Sox had base traffic and they couldn't get guys in, especially in extra innings. I would have felt a lot better about Alex Bregman being at the plate than a guy like David Hamilton. So get him back in this lineup and see what happens from there. But speaking of Marcelo Mayer, he had a big night in the game last night against the Angels. Why is the Red Sox future so promising? Nothing's scarier than when you can't manage your money and you feel like you have random expenses and charges and you don't even know what you're paying for. I've had this happen to me multiple times where I've seen random subscriptions come through on my account that I didn't even know I was paying for. So Monarch Money really helped me to control that because it's a complete financial command center so that you can actually track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, which is exactly what I have done. And it really has helped to keep my financial situation a lot more organized and intact. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. I am telling you, this is so worth it if you want to keep better track of your life and be organized when it comes to your finances in general. The Red Sox are coming off of another frustrating loss. Fourth loss in a row after dropping the second and third games in the 3-game series against the San Francisco Giants and now dropping the first 2 games against the Angels. And the offense is the main reason to thank for that because the offense just could not get much going at all. They scored 1 run for Garrett Crochet, and then as a result, they lost in extra innings. This is why you need to score more than 1 run, and the Red Sox really could have used insurance, and they had opportunities to get insurance runs, but at the end of the day, they couldn't do that, and they couldn't deliver, and they failed to come through in extras. So ultimately, when it comes to this team right now, there's been a lot of inconsistencies with the offense. Clearly, they need Alex Bregman in the lineup, but one bright spot has been Marcelo Mayer in all facets of the game. Marcelo Mayer is a true representation of the exciting future that the Boston Red Sox have, and we as fans should be very excited about what he brings to the table. Marcelo Mayer had a big game at the plate last night, going 3 for 4 with a run scored and an RBI. He also did strike out in one of his at-bats, but he was seeing the ball really well, and it improved his batting average to a .216 with a .272 on base percentage and .446 slugging. He hasn't exactly had this phenomenal start to the majors at the plate, then he definitely has had his fair share of struggles. His chase percentage is something that he could still improve on in his swing selections a little bit. But if he gains more confidence at the plate, I definitely feel like his offense can catch up to the defense that he provides. And he played second base last night for the first time in his major league career. And when he was asked about the potential of switching positions, he said, I'll play wherever the team needs me to play. Shortstop is his natural position, but he had primarily been playing third base due to Alex Bregman's absence. But when Bregman comes back, they're going to have to figure out where they want to put Mayer. And the question is going to be, are they going to have him continue to play second base, or would they move him back to his natural position at shortstop and have Trevor Story move to second base, who has experience playing there? So either direction they could go in, but Mayer has already made it clear that regardless of what the Red Sox choose, he wants to do what's best for the team. And what was best for the team last night was for him to play second base. So he did. Obviously, had a big night at the plate, also driving in that big run in extras to give the Red Sox a 2-1 lead. Ultimately, they ended up still losing that game anyway, but that was great to see for his confidence. Took the first pitch and ripped a single to score the ghost runner. And he also looked natural at second base. He made some really nice plays there. He actually made a diving play where he landed right on his chest, and you could tell after the fact that he was definitely in pain. He was able to stop it and save a hit. but instead of making a play to try to turn a double play and get 2 runners out, he just held on to the ball, because by the time he tried to make a throw, it probably would have been an overthrow because it would have been rushed, and there just really wasn't a play to make at that point. So the baseball IQ of him being able to recognize when to try to make the play and when to not is huge, and it's something that I really like about him because, for example, you look at some other players on this team like David Hamilton or Kristian Campbell, and they would jump to try to make a play immediately in those types of situations, and it has led to them rushing things before, handing the other team a free base runner, and then it backfires on the Red Sox. So the fact that Marcelo Mayer knew to just eat the play and knew there wasn't really one to be made that was smart, that wouldn't have resulted in potential disaster on the field, I really liked that about him and the way that he showed that poise. And he really truly does show poise in everything that he does. His first hit of the game was a triple, and he followed up that triple with a really smooth slide into home plate after a sacrifice fly that was hit by Nate Eaton to right field. So that ended up scoring Mayer from third base. And he just had the smoothest glide into home plate because the throw from right field was pretty dead on to the catcher for the Angels. So that almost beat him home. But with the way that Marcelo was so smooth about his maneuver, they were unable to throw him out. And the importance of saying all of this is because Marcelo just makes things look easy and look natural. And it really never looks like he's stressed out about anything or like he's fazed by the pressure. And that was something I really noticed about him in AAA when I was covering him there, was just his composure and the fact that he never really seems to get upset or frustrated. Everything to him is what it is. Every at bat is what it is. And I may have mentioned this on the show before, but when I was in Worcester one day before Marcelo got called up, he was asked by one of his teammates, how are you feeling today? We have a doubleheader, so it's a long day. And Marcelo just goes, it's like any other day. We are just playing baseball and we're showing up to give 100%, and let's just go out there and win a couple baseball games. And I was really impressed by that answer because it really showed, again, that he's not fazed by it. And despite the fact that it was going to be a really long day of baseball because they were playing 2 full games, he just said, yeah, it's any other day. Let's go out there and play. And the more that I talked to him, the more I got that same vibe from him. He's a very team first guy. His answer is always, I'm going to do what the team needs me to do. And Woo Sox manager Chad Tracy actually told me that as well and acknowledged that about him and said, people are really going to like him when he's in the majors because he always has that team first mentality. What does the team need from him? I will adapt based on what the Red Sox say that they need me to do. And I really like that characteristic, and that is reflecting on the field. He's not going out there holding a grudge or acting disappointed in the situation that he's in, especially because of the fact that the Red Sox haven't been putting him in the lineup every single night. They're having him switch positions, which already is challenging enough. Moving a player from one side of the field to the other is difficult. And I understand why, in a way, Rafael Devers was a little bit nervous about the idea of moving from third base to first base if he was going to move back into the field after becoming a DH, because first base is a very different position to play than third base. And Marcelo Mayer had only played in a few games at second base in AAA Worcester. And when I was watching him play second, I thought, wow, his footwork is definitely there. He definitely has the means to be able to play second base. And so in that regard, then I was excited to see how he would transition to playing second in the majors. And as soon as the Red Sox came out with the lineup for last night and they said that Marcelo would be playing second, I said, wow, he might ease into this transition a little bit easier than people think. And he actually mentioned specifically the footwork, how he thinks the footwork is easier at second base than it is at shortstop or third. And he really looked natural out there and didn't look like it was a position that he really hadn't played that much. And that's a really good sign for the Red Sox, because if they know he's a guy who they can move around and have him play multiple positions in the infield and not have it trick him too much and have him slip up too much, then that's something they can keep in mind moving forward, because then they can continue to utilize him in more than one infield position if they feel that that's best. And it really also symbolizes how exciting the future is for this Boston Red Sox team, because you look at this big three in Kristian Campbell, Marcelo Mayer, and Roman Anthony. And Kristian Campbell obviously is down in AAA right now trying to improve his game. But when he comes back up, you have this trio that the Red Sox are really hoping are going to be the glue for the team moving forward. And with how well Mayer has been playing already in the majors, it really leaves you with this sense of excitement of, wow, things may be really frustrating right now for the Major League Boston Red Sox, but then you look at these guys and the future is so bright with them. And when you look at the way that even Roman Anthony approaches his at-bats, he may not be making good contact every time, but the swing decisions are definitely there, and he just has some growth and maturity that he has to go through when it comes to his approach at the plate. But that's something that he can continue to grow, and it really allows for a big sense of excitement surrounding the Red Sox future, because now you have this core of players that you can continue to build around. And that's why Alex Bregman coming back sooner to serve as a great mentor on the field to go with the off the field stuff for these players and have them watch and learn from a veteran could be an absolute game changer. So really big game for Mayer last night. I'm really hoping he keeps that up and continues to shine in the way that we as Red Sox fans know that he can. Are the Boston Red Sox sellers at the trade deadline? Is it becoming more and more apparent that they should be? Going to be answering that question next. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiette Ready. Rugiette Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rugiette's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. If traditional options haven't worked, Rugiette might be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. I love that it's completely online. Rugiette connects you with a board-certified doctor and ships your treatment discreetly to your door. Head to Rugiette.com/LockedOnMLB and use code LockedOnMLB to get 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnMLB and use promo code LockedOnMLB for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rugiette website for full safety information. When we're thinking about the Boston Red Sox and where they are at right now, we are thinking of a team that continues to be hit or miss. They'll go on a nice little run, for example, having strung together some really nice series wins. Prior to going to San Francisco, they had won 5 of their previous 6 series. Then they went to San Francisco to face Rafael Devers, and him going up against his former team obviously creates an extra sense of fire there. So they go to San Francisco and they lose that series. And I say, okay, that's a good Giants team that's trying to fight with the Dodgers for their division lead. So I said, okay, I'll give them a little bit of a pass on that. We get the Angels next. Let's try to take advantage of them. And just like it was when they faced the Angels at home, they could not beat them, and they have already lost this series, and now they are going to be playing this afternoon to try to avoid getting swept. Now, I mentioned earlier in the show that in a way, you can try to give them the benefit of the doubt and say, yeah, maybe they are figuring things out, but maybe they're just exhausted and fatigued from this road trip because they've traveled so far away. They're jet lagged. It's a different time zone, and that could be exhausting for anybody. So maybe it's just time for them to get off this West Coast trip. But the problem is that how many times can you use an excuse of fatigue and travel? Because the Red Sox have displayed this same pattern all season long where they'll get a few games over 500 and then they'll slip back into under 500 or right at 500. So they're hanging around that mid mark. They are currently, as of right now, a few games out of a playoff spot. So obviously not that far back, but things haven't really clicked as much as Red Sox fans would hope. And the biggest thing with that over these past couple of weeks when they were playing well, the question was, are they figuring things out or are they just on a hot streak? And I do worry a little bit that they were just on a hot streak at that point, and that the way that they're playing right now over these last two series is more still who they are. And obviously you can justify certain things like, yeah, Alex Bregman's still hurt. Masataka Yoshida's still hurt. Rafael Devers is no longer on the team, and you have some key pitching injuries to guys like Justin Slayton and Chris Murphy. Slayton especially, who was a high leverage guy for the Red Sox, and now you kind of lost him, and now you're forced to throw pitchers in situations where you might not necessarily always throw them. So it's just one spiral effect after another, but eventually the accountability needs to be there and the guys who are on the field have to perform. And the problem is that that just hasn't really been the case, at least to the ability level that we would hope that it would. So that poses a question of, are the Red Sox sellers at this trade deadline? Because they could go either way. They could decide to say, hey, we want to buy because our team isn't that far off the pace of a playoff spot. So instead of throwing things in the towel, we want to show our current players that we still believe in them to go out there and make that playoff run for us. Or they could take the selling route and they could say, hey, this team specifically isn't going to contend this year. We don't really feel confident that they can be a team that can go far. And if they feel like they could just squeak into the playoffs, that might still not justify being a reason for them to buy. And they might say, okay, well, why don't we sell off some of our big pieces that could be a really useful rental on another team and go out and get assets that will further set us up for next season because we're not going to be contenders. Now, I don't think the answer is still 100% clear because I would like to see how they play coming out of this West Coast trip and if they are able to turn things around and if them being on the West Coast for so long was a direct reason as to why they have been struggling. But if they come off this West Coast trip and they still continue to put together a lot of losses in series, then we're going to start to question everything by saying, okay, then this is definitely still who they are. They're just an average baseball team that just doesn't know how to win consistently. So for me, are the Boston Red Sox sellers? As of right now, the answer to me seems like it's yes, because what's the point in trying to add to this team if, for one, it might not work if they're going to continue to be an average baseball team, and for two, if guys are hurt and they have the opportunity to give up guys that could serve another team well, why not try to add to the future of your team if you know, okay, we still might not make a deep playoff run even if we make it in. They need to play a lot better for me to change my mind on this. But if the trade deadline were to be tomorrow, for example, the obvious answer to me feels like the Red Sox should sell. And that's a disappointing thing to be talking about at this point in the conversation and at this point in the season, because I really thought that right now we would be talking about who the Red Sox should add to the team at the trade deadline to make them a lot better. And Craig Breslow already said to the fan base that he doesn't plan on waving the white flag on the 2025 season. He specifically said, when they traded Rafael Devers that they are still invested in this year's Red Sox team, and they feel like this team can still do damage. And for all of that, Breslow's on the hot seat now, because what's going to happen if they continue to lose a lot of games? Because now things are going to look worse for him, because people are going to say, wow, you promised us that you were going to buy at the deadline, so obviously you were lying. But if the Red Sox aren't winning games on a regular basis, it's hard to justify them being buyers at that point. So as of right now, to me, the Red Sox are sellers because they haven't been playing good baseball consistently enough on a regular basis to where I would feel confident in them adding pieces. So I feel like common names to look out for on the trade market would be guys like Aroldis, Chapman, maybe Jarren, Duran, maybe even Walker Buehler and Lucas Giolito, the older guys who are experienced that a contending team might take a fly on and say, hey, we really could use a closer for our playoff run, or hey, we could really use a guy like Lucas Giolito because he's experienced, but he also knows what it's like to bounce back from injury. I'd love to have my younger pitchers around that. So there are lots of names to look out for here. Again, I don't think the Red Sox have fully made that decision yet. I think they are still holding out hope that maybe the Red Sox will turn things around in the next couple weeks here prior to the trade deadline approaching. But if the trade deadline were to be tomorrow, I would say the Red Sox at that point are sellers. And it's unfortunate, but hopefully they can prove me wrong and they can continue to just get better and they can continue to do things the right way and get themselves back on track to playing the level of baseball they were playing back when they swept the Yankees and they had won 5 of 6 series. So we'll have to see how it all plays out, but I really appreciate you tuning into Locked On Red Sox and making it your first listen today. For your second listen, make sure to check out MLB Game Night on YouTube or any other podcast platform where some of our local experts from the Locked On Network here will break down every game from that night so you don't have to continue to check the box score on ESPN. So make sure you check that out next. Like I always say, keep the faith, go Red Sox, and I'll catch you on the flip side.